All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. We got a bunch of things to talk about, but I think the thing that's on everyone's mind right here as we get into this Market Close is Mr. Tessie at 309, up 5% on the day. If you bought the 280 dip today, congratulations. 308 right here, up about 5%. Now, why is Tesla up 5% right now? It's because there is some macro stuff going on with China that we'll talk about. There is some stuff in regards to inflation data that is really good. That's helping old growth stocks. However, the real reason is the next basically 45 seconds you're about to hear Trump talk about Elon.
And secondly, are you going to
Is that what she said? She was kidnapped by Israel?
Yes, sir. Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually, about the
I got so many locations, I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla, did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask.
did have an argument, but I didn't see. I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
All right, so that's it. That's all Tessie needed. You had President Trump basically say, hey, I'm not getting rid of my Starlink, even though I might move around my Tesla. He does confirm the Wall Street Journal reporting a couple weeks ago that Elon and Besant did have an argument. Everyone's thinking the black guy came from Besant. I have no idea where it came from. I don't think it came from his kid, but it came from somewhere. Trump is saying, hey, I never thought the relationship got physical. And then he says, I don't think Elon was ever on drugs. We had a good relationship, and I wish him well. He went on further to say, when someone asked him, are you guys going to get on a phone call? And he said, we might, and he's open to it, even though there's no plans for it happening right now. And that's it, folks. That's all she said. And there you go. Tessie's pumping on that. Now, there is some good China updates that's probably helping the whole market right here. That is also important. Tesla right here at 308. You got Robinhood 73. Not too bad. We did buy it today at 70.65. I know a lot of you guys bought it at around 69, 68, 70 bucks. So if you bought the dip today, not too bad. NVIDIA right here, 142. Did try to go for 145, couldn't get there. Palantir up a nice 4% right here at 3%, 131.60. Google above 176. Looked like it's going to get the 175 close. SoFi pumping back over 14. Meta just below 700 at 696. But Tessie, really the story of the day, 308 right here. And honestly, I really do think it's pumping based on this Trump thing. Now, another thing that could be incorporating the move on Tesla is that they applied for a autonomous vehicle license in Texas. That was some court documents people saw today showed that is officially happening. Now, that doesn't mean robotaxi is still happening on the day that people thought it was going to be, which is June 12th. I was talking to Farzad today privately, and Farzad says, I don't know if we're going to get that robotaxi June 12th because he just thinks they would have announced it by now. But they did officially list themselves as a known autonomous vehicle operator, a KAVO, in Austin on their local DMV website, which kind of gets you to think, all right, there's Tesla's name right there. Underneath the known AV operators in Austin, you have Zoox, you have Waymo, you have all those companies. It does feel like, hey, maybe there's a shot that robotaxi is coming up, soon. But we don't know. We have to see this week if it plays out. But you put that together with what Trump said, and boom, if the bromance is back, we talked a lot about sentiment shift as well. Sentiment could be shifting the opposite direction, which is one of the beautiful things about Tesla is that it can go up as quickly as it goes down. And that's just the nature of the stock. If you've been in the stock for years, that's probably what you're used to. But if the sentiment is shifting towards Elon reposting all of Trump's political tweets and Trump basically, Trump not taking a cheap shot at him, which he, Elon said he was on the Epstein list. I don't think you could blame Trump for saying, hey, for taking a cheap shot at him or taking a low blow. But Trump's refraining, which is very anti-Trump. Trump tends to, Trump was taking a cheap shot at Greta Thunberg before he was asked the Elon question. And with Elon, he was chilled out. So as far as it says right there in the chat, the boys are back together. The boys might end up being back together. He says, I don't think Trump will retaliate. Yeah, I think if Trump was going to retaliate, it would have happened by now. And that's not happening. At least I don't see any evidence of it. And maybe that could be a world in which Elon and Trump makeup. I mean, like you know, what does Elon always say? Fate loves irony. Like, you know, or he says the most, what does he say? The most exciting outcome is what's the take he says? Like the most interesting outcome is usually what happens. Something like that. Like them making up would be the thing that no one expected. And then if it happens, it might just be the reason why Tesla propels its way back into that, hopefully 330, 340 range that it was at a couple of weeks ago. So that was the one thing that Trump said today, and that was helping Tesla. And that's getting some momentum. Then you also had Trump comment on the Invest America Act, that whole roundtable you guys were looking at. He was there to talk about Invest America. And folks, I think this is one of the best pieces of legislation ever. It gives $1,000 to every newborn and invested in the S&P 500. It is officially called the Trump account.
So they've come up with some fantastic ideas. We're putting them into use. They're really the greatest business minds we have today. These men and women lead large, successful companies, and they're committed to contributing millions of dollars to the Trump account. And it's really, it's going to be something incredible for children and for their employees in many cases. Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick, right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be good. I think we might do that, Michael Dell.
So he was talking to Michael Dell there. So it's official, folks. The Trump accounts are now or the Invest America accounts are going to be branded as Trump accounts. By the way, Vlad was at that roundtable. Unfortunately, Vlad didn't get a chance to speak. They spoke to the Uber CEO. They spoke to Brad Gerstner, who, by the way, when I was listening to Brad Gerstner talk about this, he was referring to them as the Trump accounts. So I think, you know, he is fully embraced. Look, I want to get this legislation passed. Call it a Trump account, call it Invest America, call it whatever the hell you want. Let's just get the bill done. Let's get the legislation passed through the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is where the funding is going to come from. And he was also referring to it as the Trump account. So for the next 30 years, these kids are going to have these Trump accounts. And, you know, if they make some good money off the growth of America, because the federal government gives a one-time $1,000 contribution when they're just born, you know, it'll be known as the Trump account for them, unless someone changes the name, but I doubt that's going to happen. And, you know, someone brought up a good point under the comments when I posted this. Look, does it sound narcissistic and egotistical? Of course. However, in all fairness, one of the largest pieces of healthcare legislation that was passed in this country was called Obamacare. So, like, when they brought that up, I was like, you know, that's a good point, dude. It's both sides, bro. Like, Obama literally branded free healthcare for, you know, I think it was like, what, 57 million Americans that got it back in 2010. It's grown since then as Obamacare, you know? So, like, and no one really calls it anything else but Obamacare. So, if we're going to be calling it the Trump accounts, then I guess we're going to be calling it the Trump accounts. And you know what's interesting about this is that the piece of legislation is one of the best pieces of legislation ever. I mean, I think it's very hard, Tessa right here at 307, for anyone to disagree with the idea that the government should give each kid $1,000 to invest in the S&P 500. We waste so much money on stupid stuff. It would be amazing for us to actually put it into our youth, especially when they're born, and teach them financial literacy, all that stuff. It would probably be, you know, not politically suiting for Trump to not take advantage of that and brand it in his own way. You know, that's just probably a smart thing for him to do. Now, granted, is it super egotistical? Of course. Yes, I agree with that. But nonetheless, the piece of legislation will be passed and they will be called Trump accounts. They originally were going to be called MAGA accounts, but he had to take it one step further. He had to call it a Trump account. So there you go. That's what we got. Palantir right here, 132 as we get 4 minutes into the close. Tessie looks like it's going to close above 305, which is absolutely incredible. Yes, I know Obamacare is not the official name. It's the Affordable Care Act, but everyone calls it Obamacare. I get it. Like, you guys get my point. The point is, the reason it was framed that way is because, you know, politicians want to take credit for this stuff. And so it is what it is. That's what they are. That's what they're going to try to do. Tessie right here, 307.74, SoFi 1410, Palantir 132, Robinhood 73. Not too bad on Hoodie. Overall, not a bad day for the markets. S&P 500 above 600. Holding above that $6,000 range, 6,010 on the SPX. And so far it's looking pretty good. Now, in terms of the China updates, we got a bunch of other ththings to talk about at 4:15. So in about 20 minutes, we're going to have Tess join, and she's going to give us the bull case on quantum. So if anyone's ever been confused about quantum, we're going to have a good 45 minutes today discussing quantum and get the bull thesis when we got the bear thesis from Skrelly last week. So the U.S.-China talks lasted around 6 hours today in London. Chinese officials have left. Besant, Lutnick, and Greer remain. Negotiations will resume again at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Besant said it was a good meeting. Lutnick said the talks were fruitful. And again, we will continue to have these talks at 10 a.m. Tomorrow in London. So, I mean, this could be another reason why Tesla is pumping, along with a lot of other growth stocks. If we do get that China deal, obviously that's going to be bullish for the entire market. Tesla right here at 307. NVIDIA really not getting back to where it was at 145. So there's a lot of buying pressure, but it was just not able to be followed up. We talked about some of the headlines for NVIDIA that were super bullish. The main thing was the Wall Street Journal headline that said that Besant now has the freedom, as per Trump, to use technology sales, which to me is basically chips, to negotiate with the Chinese. Kind of Trump said, all right, you're free to use NVIDIA. Not literally did this, but like you're free to use the American tech sector as a way to negotiate. And to me, you know, one of the biggest assets we have is NVIDIA. And so if they're going to be used as a pawn in these negotiations, but inevitably we're going to get a deal done, then that's obviously super bullish for NVIDIA. That could have been a reason why that stock was up. Robinhood right here, 73.25. That one still down on the day, but hitting 73, which is not too bad at all. Yeah, unfortunately, Vlad was not able to speak. I wanted to see Vlad try to talk and kind of, make some analysis, which, I mean, basically everyone was glazing Trump. Okay, so I was kind of curious how was Vlad going to glaze Trump, but they didn't give the mic to him, so he didn't get a chance to tell President Trump he's the best president in the world and that none of this would be possible without him. But Brad Gerstner did, Dara from Uber did, so we got to hear those guys, but we didn't get to hear Vlad. He needs to practice his glazing 100%, bro. Dude, it's like at the end of the day, like Jensen has glazed Trump, Elon's glazed Trump, Zucks is like, you know, if I want Robinhood to do well in this administration, you're gonna need your CEO to glaze. But he didn't get a chance to publicly do it. He didn't get a chance to publicly do it today. All right, 1 minute until this market closes, folks. Here we go. It's it was a relatively exciting day, and we had so much news that we didn't even get to talk about Apple, which there's really not much to talk about. We'll do a little bit of a preview. Apple right here down on the day because, quite frankly, there was just nothing. There was just nothing. They nuked my stream. They nuked Tanner's stream, so we weren't even able to watch it. But they introduced something called liquid glass, which I think was the big innovation of the day. But outside of that, yeah, there was just nothing that exciting about Apple right here. All right, cool. Here we go. We got about 20 seconds as we get into the close. Rocket Lab, good day as well. 29.68. At one point, it was 32. Hims at 56.85. Roblox 93. Robin at 73.41. NVIDIA 142.65. Let's get these last 5 seconds and see how Tesla closes. There she goes, 308.51. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market now closed. Missed the bell, dude. I missed the bell, but we are back, and the market is now closed on the day. Tessie closes up 4.3% of the day, 307.80 on Tesla. Robin at 73.35, not too bad. You could get this thing at 68.50 today if anyone got that dip. I got it at 70.65, but overall, not too bad for Hood. Tesla again, 307. NVIDIA closes at 142.56, and Palantir closes at 132. 132 on the day. Which was not a bad day for Palantir as well. All right, Vlad just tweeted. Oh, wow. Pretty cool. Look at what he just tweeted, dude. Just wrapped up the Invest America Summit at the White House with Trump, Cruz, Gerstner, and others. We discussed the initiative to fund $1,000 in a brokerage account for every American at birth. Robinhood is ready to go, and we can bring our technology and product development resources to bear to deliver these accounts under budget and ahead of schedule to the 3.5 million newborns in America every year. Check out what our team has built so far. Holy crap, dude. You know, guys, I am just realizing, wow, look at this. Okay, you know what I'm just realizing? I'm literally just realizing this right now. I'm realizing this just now. I don't know how many of you guys realize this. It hit me like a brick, dude. It hit me like a brick just now. Brad Gerstner owns $120 million of Robinhood stock. Both of them are at the Invest America Summit. Are they really going to use Schwab and Fidelity to manage all these accounts? Because if they don't, and if they use Robinhood, I mean, is it wishful thinking to think we're going to get 3.5 million accounts every year? That's how many newborns are born in the country every year, orchestrated through Robinhood. I mean, like why else was Vlad there today? Right? Just to, like, say hi. Honestly, why was Vlad there today? Like, he's never attended a roundtable with the president before outside of the crypto summit, but Robinhood's a crypto player, so it makes sense that he would show up there. Why would Vlad be there today? I don't even think this is like hyper speculation. Like, Brad Gerstner invested in Robinhood, a good chunk of money. Brad Gerstner made this thing happen. Vlad was sitting 2 seats away from Brad Gerstner. Maybe there's a world. And then now Vlad's tweeting that they already designed an Invest America account on Hood. That's not crazy, right? That's not crazy speculation. I mean, there might be a world where Robinhood is the platform of choice to custody all this money. Again, kids can't touch it. Parents are the guardians. Parents, family, and friends can add to their kids' accounts. And with this sleek UI and user interface and experience, it might be really easy for parents to just manage this. It might end up getting a lot of those parents that do have a lot more money onto the platform as well. And that could be a massive, massive tailwind for Hood. So I don't know. I don't know the logistics on how they're going to do this via brokerages, but they are getting started this year. As soon as this bill passes, Trump said we are getting started. Any child that was born after December 31st and then before January 2029. So this is a 5-year or 4-year plan that they have to make this happen. These kids are going to get $1,000 added to their account from the government. So not too crazy. Not too crazy. That might be a tail. I'm literally just thinking of that right now, but that might be the tailwind that we see on Robin, and that could be helping here as well. So cool stuff for Robinhood. Okay, Apple, let's talk. That's literally a generational catalyst. 100%. That's literally a generational catalyst for Robinhood. All right, Apple, let's get a little bit of a recap from Dan Ives, see what he's thinking about Apple. Quite frankly, after they nuked our stream, I stopped watching it. So let's get an update from it, and then we will keep going from there. We're going to have Tess on in 10 minutes, and she's going to give us the quantum bull case around D-Wave, IONQ, and all these quantum names.
AI features. Right. That's how you described it. So what do you think the great takeaway is from this event here today?
Yeah, going in, I mean, the bar was on the floor, right, Scott? They just had to not trip over it. No one really expected a ton of things. The vibe was quite muted. Kif Lesswing, our colleague from CNBC.com, he was actually in the keynote and with the crowd. And he said he's never been to an Apple event this muted. Usually you hear a lot more cheers and things like that going on. Didn't get a lot of that this time. I think there are some cheers for the karaoke app, I guess. But when it comes to artificial intelligence and when it comes to the AI stuff that our audience really wants to know what Apple's next step in that is, they got some minor things. Live translation, pretty cool. Nothing we haven't seen from Meta or Google or OpenAI. There's this workout buddy that can kind of intelligently coach you.
Dude, even the journalist, he's like even he can't believe that he's talking about a workout buddy as for a $3 trillion company. That was their innovation today. I mean, like, I don't know what to say, bro, but it's why Apple's down right here. And ironically, I also think Tesla started pumping because people saw the Apple announcements and they saw new generative emojis and they're like, screw this. Even if Tesla's more expensive, I'm buying Tesla because I'd rather buy FSD than invest in generative emojis.
As you're doing your workouts, okay. The real question is, do you think any of that stuff is going to sell more iPhones? Are people who are using 14 or earlier iPhone that need to upgrade to get these Apple Intelligence features that are announced today? Not a lot compelling there. They did mention Siri at the very top and how they missed on that and how they need a little bit more time to get that going. That's the one everyone's waiting for. And they did tease there'll be more to share perhaps later this year on that. But until we get more details on that, I mean, this was really muted. And if you're hoping for some surprise AI announcement, you did not get that. And now we just kind of spin it forward and wait till September for the new iPhones. Maybe they can show us something cool and innovative there on the hardware side that'll get people excited. But right now, you're not seeing a ton of excitement with this.
You, Dan Ives, are I think, by far the most bullish analyst on Wall Street as it relates to Apple. You graded this today a B. Why so?
I mean, look, last year, I mean, they were in a left lane of Ferrari going 95 miles an hour with the updates, AI, everything they're doing in Apple Intelligence. This time, it was 45 miles an hour in that right lane. I mean, I'd say it's B because they played it very safe to the vest. If you really look at how they navigated, not really announcing any sort of major announcements, some in terms of from an AI perspective. Scott,
for Dan to give them a B today means it was bad because Dan is bullish whenever Apple does something. So that's how you know Dan is not really impressed here.
You is I think, look, they got 6 to 9 months to figure this out. They could be forced into M&A for a company that historically has not done acquisitions. But I do believe investors, they get it that they got to be safe here. But they need, as a big tech player, this is their time.
I think what's clear
AI.
too, though, is that Apple doesn't necessarily care what the analyst community thinks about it. It doesn't care what the investor community necessarily thinks about it. It's on its own timeline, and it's going to stick to its own time frame over anybody else's. And that was underscored, if nothing else, today.
The one thing I just say is that they might not care investors what they care what developers think about. And I think the reality is that developers, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, you're competing. It's a Game of Thrones battle for developers. So I think that is something where clock's ticking in terms of from a developer perspective, because they control the consumer AI ecosystem. No one doubts that. But you got to give developers the actual framework when it comes to AI. I think that's the biggest thing they got.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was nothing today, bro. You can tell how Dan's even thinking about it. Robbing it right here, 73.40. Tesla up a little bit after hours, 308. You can tell Dan is just like, I don't know, man. This is the first time I've heard him say they have 9 months to figure this out. I've never heard him put a timeline like this on Apple right here. And look, if they don't figure it out in 9 months, does that mean the stock's dead? No, like maybe the stock's not going to appreciate the way some of the hyper bulls wanted to appreciate. But that does mean that people are going to move on. People are going to move on to different options. I mean, the cost of capital from an opportunity perspective is ruthless. And if you're in the wrong name for too long, then obviously it can be pretty bad to navigate. So I think from that perspective, that's a big issue. And then, why would people invest in Apple when OpenAI just hit 10 billion in recurring revenue this year, up from 3.7 billion last year? That was one of the new headlines we got this morning as well. You buy NVIDIA over that, right? Like you want growth. NVIDIA is going to benefit massively. The projections are by 2029 for OpenAI to do 125 billion. Chris Camillo, who is an investor in OpenAI, he tweeted today that he thinks this is being sandbagged, and there's actually a lot more revenue. He thinks it's closer to about 15 billion right now. And OpenAI didn't confirm or deny the numbers, but if that is the case, that's just a lot of demand coming at the end of the day for NVIDIA.
Spokesperson, it does come just 2.5 years since its AI chatbot, ChatGPT, hit the market, and a source separately telling me that revenue, think about last year, it was $5.5 billion at the end of 2024, so roughly doubling, but right now we are, of course, only halfway through the year with that 10 billion number. The key sales driver, according to the spokesperson, is ChatGPT. Spokesperson also saying and confirming that the chatbot topped 500 million weekly active users at the end of March. So these new revenue figures do bake in sales from that consumer business and API, but they do exclude Microsoft and the licensing revenue and then one-off mega deals like SoftBank pretty recently. It does also give some context to this company's monster $300 billion valuation in private markets. It's about 30 times revenue, which does underline a lot of the growth expectations from investors like SoftBank and Microsoft out there. I'm told from a separate source that in the next 4 years, OpenAI is going to be aiming to hit $125 billion in revenue. It also aims to be cash flow positive at that point. In the meantime, this company is also spending a bulk of what's coming in. It's not profitable yet. I have heard from sources that the company saw $5 billion in losses last year. No comment from OpenAI.
Right. So they're making 10 billion, losing 15 billion, but regardless, they're growing. And if they'll eventually figure out the profitability part. But if they keep growing at these levels, dude, if they keep growing at these levels and 125, if the 125 billion by 2030 number is underestimated, and first of all, that would be 2 times the value of the market cap in terms of revenue to market cap, which at that point the market cap would be closer to $1 trillion. But if it's something like 150 or anywhere near 200 billion in revenue, it's just, it's hard to underestimate how bullish that will be for the entire sector. That means there's going to be more enterprise AI adoption. That's bullish for Palantir. There's going to be way more data center spend. That's good for CoreWeave, which, by the way, 162 back to all-time highs, up 15% of the day. That's good for Nebius, 52.63. That was up 9% of the day. That's good for Broadcom and the semis and Micron and TSM and all that stuff. Broadcom was down about 1% of the day, but all the other semis did pretty good. TSM right here was up about 1%. And then obviously that's good for NVIDIA, good for AMD, and good for the entire semiconductor ecosystem as well. Bullish for Google, Amazon, all of these companies. This is the most exciting time in human history to be an investor, because it's not like dot-com bubble where it was exciting, but everything was fake and everything was too early. And in 2010, maybe a lot of people just weren't part of that mobile cloud computing revolution in terms of being educated about the market. But now, given the retail momentum that we see in the equity markets, and you have a growth curve, which is AI as this massive S curve and catalyst, I think that's what's getting everyone pretty damn excited. All right, cool. Good stuff. So let's get into the star of the day who's going to be joining our stream for the first time. This person has been an investor in D-Wave Quantum, ticker symbol QBTS, I believe since under $1. The stock is now basically $18, up about 1,400% in the past year. Last week, we got the bear case from Mr. Martin Shkreli, who is short this stock. That short has not worked out so far. Today, we're going to get the bull case on Quantum. We're going to get some of the opposition to the arguments that Shkreli was making, some more examples. We're going to be able to take some questions from the chat, and we'll try to get a much better understanding and try to get both perspectives here in the world of Quantum. Also, this person has been a large supporter of the channel. They've been a mod for probably a year and a half now, and they've been super helpful on my journey to be able to scale this channel as well. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever on the stream, market close, here we go, Mrs. Quan Tesla. Tess, how you doing?
Miss. You're all dead.
Miss.
Miss.
Why is your name Quan Tesla?
I changed it because I was getting trolled like mad in December when I was saying Quantum's not here for 30 years and all the rest of it. So I got a bit triggered and then I started doing some YouTubes.
Okay, cool. There we go. I love it. First of all, Tess, I just want to say thank you for being part of the stream for so many years and putting up with me in the background. And...
No, you're good. We pushed you to do longer and more, don't we? It was never enough. Like, 10 hours of arm at a day is not enough, apparently.
Yeah, 10 hours with a mid is actually not enough. But no, I appreciate you every single day. I mean, you were here early in the Palantir days, and you were part of that whole journey as well. So thank you so much for being part of the stream. I think let's get straight into it. I have a lot of questions. I'm going to give you the floor to talk. I'm sure we have questions in the chat as well. But let's just start off with this. Why are you so bullish? And can you give us like a truncated understanding for people that have never heard of Quantum? Why are you bullish on the sector?
Okay, so I there's so many caveats. That's why there's too much to type in chat when the chat's going on. So like I don't look at the quantum sector as a whole, or I don't speak on it as a whole, because one thing I will agree with Shkreli on is that there is some frauds within the sector. There is a lot of manipulation between science data, etc. Right. So for me specifically, I'm a D-Wave bull, and specifically I will talk about D-Wave and the bull case with D-Wave. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good stuff coming with quantum as a whole. So radar, sensors, the whole lot. Quantum computing though is here today. So obviously a few of the bear case that was spewed a couple of weeks ago was it's all a scam. You can't find a customer. You can't find a customer who said it works. None of their gens work, etc. Now, some caveats again, because there's caveats with all of it, and the differentials are really important. So when most of people are making sweeping statements, they are talking about gated models. Gated models aren't here yet today from anyone, right? The timelines vary on what people are saying they're going to be here. So I'm personally, that's not what I'm investing in. I'm not investing in hope and something that might be here in 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, whatever. Like Google are saying that their gated models will be out by 2030. ION are making great strides developing their trapped ion models. However, they aren't here today, so for me, it's not investable. That's why I get really triggered when everyone's just trying to do sweeping statements across the board from old rhetoric, right? What is investable today is quantum annealing technology. Now, you'll hear some debates either by theoretical physicists or Martin Shkreli, for example, that say, and even Jensen turned around and said, you can't call it computer then, right? Because they've all got their little tick boxes on what they say a computer is, right? So let's get back to the very fundamentals. D-Wave quantum annealing, right, uses quantum mechanics to compute complex, large computations. So by any metric, it is a computer. By any metric, they are using quantum mechanics, and you can check this in the science journals, the Nature journals, loads of sites. They've got over 100 peer-reviewed, and I do mean peer-reviewed. I don't mean Martin Shkreli wants to come and just dig my girlfriend's dad works there. No, these are peer-reviewed scientific publications that say that they are harnessing quantum mechanics and they are computing large, complex computations. So when people want to say it's not a quantum computer, you can call it what you want. As far as I'm concerned, Rob, we have this product here today, which is a quantum computer, that actually delivers value today in business applications today.
Right.
So, like, again, when he said that you couldn't find a customer, and I've spoken to 86 out of the 135 customers myself, right? And they're all raving about it. And this is like, so I went to Qubits Realised at the back end of March, which is very much, for the people in the chat who know Palantir quite well, it's very much like AI Pecan, where the customers come and show you what they've developed and what applications that they've managed to do, and the different people from different sectors can show what they can do, and it's all working on each other and bouncing off each other, etc. So from that latest one, I'll give you a couple examples, because I've got a lot that I want to make sure that I get across to people. But it's specifically what's in my head is the points that was made by the bear case that was saying that you can't find any customers telling you what they are doing today. There's no business use cases. And we'll get into TAMs, we'll get into optimization, and we'll get into the actual independent research, where the independent research shows you that actually optimization problems, whether that be resource allocation, fuel, car fleets, all the rest of it, finances, it's every single business faces these logistic problems. Maths, obviously, being extremely important in business. When you've got large, complex data, mathematical data, i.e., we've got 4 or 5 bio companies now, which have got millions and millions of molecules, genomes, and all the rest of it that they need to screen the library altogether. That in itself used to take years to do, and D-Wave's got that down to 48 hours. So yes, okay, the drug discovery world is still very much developing and finding progress, because it's not like we've got any drugs coming out today or anything. But actually, when the screening, it was hundreds of millions of variables down to 48 hours, it used to take years. It's just a no-brainer. So if we're sticking to the biosciences for a second, we had Menton AI come on board that managed to restructure genomes. Then we've had Siemens Healthineers come on board, which are medical imaging, using quantum computing to do medical imaging, so they can literally do it over line, etc. Loads of things that Siemens are doing. Then we
So can we just back up for a second for everyone else? What exactly is quantum computing as a theory? Like what is the process of quantum computing?
Well, so classical computers use ones and zeros, binary code. I'm pretty sure most people in our chat understand that, right? So quantum computing can literally look at all possible results, all possible solutions in one go. We don't have to go, let's look at that, let's look at that, let's look at that, let's look at that, like Excel would. So you can literally look at all variables together in one go. This is why the speed acceleration of this, I'll give you some exact examples. So the speed acceleration and what you can do with a large mathematical computational is unparalleled. So you've got 80% reduction at Patterson Foods in their workforce scheduling. So it's this is in business process today, in application today, an automatic run of their work. And it's got that down to 30 minutes, and it's down by 80%. They use that every single day. Oslo transport system. So there's a company called Routers that literally power the whole of Oslo's public transport. So that's trams, buses, ferries, metros, right? So they've won innovation awards for the work that they've done with D-Wave technology. So not only do they reroute all the buses depending on weather, staff allocation, fuel, etc.
So these are use cases you're describing.
What I'm telling you now is what's in business use case today. This Oslo are using this. They won an award for this. So not only do they have many applications. So not only do they route all their fleet each day to obviously minimise carbon dioxide, minimise fuel costs, minimise the FTEs that are needed in each route, etc. They've got like these old people minibus pickups and stuff, and they reroute that every day for the best logistics that are going to be possible, etc. Depending on weather, fuel, many myriads. They also use it daily for their ticket inspectors. So to deploy their ticket inspectors and where to deploy them on the buses and on any part of the network to where they think they're going to achieve the most revenue back. That's in business. All of these are in business process today. The Army, your Department of Defence, your Army uses it in California today for wildfire management to reduce the amount of forest that they're having to lose, but to be able to partition off the land enough so the forest fires won't spread to, save life, save land. That's in process today. The Army showed you on stage them using D-Wave's quantum computing to show you what they are doing. The agricultural sector, which is another big piece of work. So Canada put up a lot of the money for a project. And the project was basically something that the customers, which were the water grain, some really big agricultural customers, and they would never been able to compute thousands of fields at once. So they usually have to. So for autonomous vehicles, for example, they can only compute in classical computing. They can only compute up to 10 fields at a time, and each one of those fields takes 50 seconds. And then they're not getting the most optimal solutions either. So what they have proven with D-Wave quantum computing, which is now in Canada, in Australia, in the UAE, and now moving to Brazil with D-Wave quantum computing, where autonomous vehicles can be routed in the most optimal way, which they weren't getting those results before. They can run 10,000 fields at a time, 20,000 fields at a time. There's no computational mathematical limits to what you can be putting in. Then it gives you obviously the reduction in the fuel, the reduction in CO emissions, the reduction in energy it takes to do that, because the GPU demand, for example, we're talking this agricultural example, the GPUs obviously it's very energy extensive, but then they still couldn't do over more than 10 fields at a time. So with the QPU, where you can do tens of thousands of fields at a time, not only it reduces its time tenfold, so already you can do miles more than what you could do before with classical computing. Then it reduces the time it takes to do it by 10x. Right. Then it reduces your fuel, then it reduces your energy consumption, then it reduces your CO2 emissions. And then obviously it's also better for the land because the nutrients and all that are taken into account as well.
So let's talk a little bit about what Skrelly was saying, guys. If you have some questions in the chat, we'll get those.
Yeah, I can't see questions, but yeah, just fire them at me because there's actually quite a bit I'd like to get across to people, especially about D-Wave, because it irritates me that people do spew out old rhetoric, but then they don't actually look into things. Another big bear case that I get thrown at a lot is they've been in business 2 decades and never make any money. Well, yes, they've been in business since 1999, but they've been in business developing tech that was previously thought not going to happen. They've been protecting that tech, they've been developing that tech, and now they're at a case in the 2021-2022 where actually they can get enough business value across optimization, which, as we were saying before, a lot of the research was showing optimization problems is what every single business needs. Every single business needs this, which is from the quantum annealers, which are live and commercial today. So
yeah, when Martin says it's a scam, I think your argument is that there are applications and use cases for D-Wave in particular. You forget the other names that are in effect today. Why do you think the company should be worth?
It's a $4 billion market cap, right? Look, come on, yeah, I'm not going to.
Why should it be worth a couple billion? I guess is my question.
But okay, so they have been developing this tech for 26 years. They have patent protected this tech. So for when I was attributing value, one of the big things I was attributing value is how protected annealing is. So across the world, obviously, there's many different formats of doing quantum computing, as we were saying: trapped ions, photons, atoms, superconducting. superconducting from every single big independent research company has been shown as the best way to do quantum computing going forwards. And then D-Wave as well has got a whole ecosystem. So they do work on D-Wave superconducting gated models too. They've also got 60% of the patents held for that. They've also, when it comes to superconducting, they've also patent protected the way that they cryogenically control their machines to the point that by the time the other superconducting companies catch up to where they are, they're going to realise they're either going to have to leverage some of D-Wave's superconducting technology, or they're going to have to go down a different path as well. So again, they've got the hardware on the annealing side and the gated side. They've got the software. They've got the professional services. They've got the developer tools. So they are literally building an entire ecosystem around.
The stock itself, would you agree that it's expensive at $18, or how would you think of it?
Look, for me personally, right, obviously, as you all know, I've been buying under one, right? I started buying under $1, but I'm still buying at 17. I was still happy to buy. Obviously, I waited for a bit of a retrace and whatever else, but I did last buy at 17. For me, right, it's 5 billion market cap. For me, the 26 years that they have been in business developing a tech that not even China can beat. Now, China and IONC, for example, trapped ions, China are ahead in the trapped ion race. So IONC's done a great acquisition today, which will really help them. But again, all facets of quantum computing has big competitors across the world elsewhere. America are actually quite lagging in quantum computing. So this is the good thing where Donald has put some executive orders in to help the quantum computing. Your NIST has put in guidelines. You've got some federal mandates. So it's all releasing your red tape now, because China's been ahead in a lot of it for a very long time. Now with annealing, D-Wave has that on lockdown. So, and also one of the things I wanted to mention about the TAM specifically. So when the independents have gone out and looked at what people need and want quantum computing for, so over 75% of that entire TAM was for optimization problems. What they have subsequently proven in the last couple of years through all the science publications is that even when gated models come out, they are not going to be superior in optimization models. Effectively, what it means is that quantum annealing is its own product. It's got its own niche, but its niche is very wide in regards to what TAM could be taken from it. And it's
okay, so here's another question. How many computers, if you know, has D-Wave like sold? How many quantum computers have they sold to customers?
Okay, so hardware has never been something before that we've focused on as a revenue stream. Okay, but however, we've still sold. Lockheed Martin bought the first one in 2011. Lockheed Martin have bought an iteration every couple of years since, because Lockheed Martin have been a customer of ours since 2011, and the contracts get stronger and stronger, just like NASA. NASA came on board in 2011, and their contracts get stronger and stronger, and they pay them extra $1.5 million every 2 years. The contract's now worth £8.5 million every 2 years. So, but in regards to the iteration, so we've just got the Advantage 2 system out. We've sold one to Jülich superconducting system. We've got one that's going to be like in loan at DO Davidson, because DO Davidson are working on your Department of Defence work. They're doing a lot of missile planning for Department of Defence, and they think having that iteration on location in Alabama will assist further work from the Department of Defence.
So they make money from selling the computer, right? Or is there something else?
No. So this is my point about the ecosystem. So yeah, look, effectively you can sell the hardware. It's about $15 million each iteration. And if you've got someone skilled enough to use it, i.e. D.I. Davidson have been using the software at D-Wave for the last 2-3 years, he now feels very confident. So I want my own hardware. So now he's getting his own hardware in Alabama. But actually, most people, so if you're talking about up until March this year, there was 220 million quantum computing jobs sent through to the cloud. Because again, where you can compare D-Wave to the others, and these comparables are done again by independent research. So D-Wave has on their cloud system, which is where they do the software VR, they have no downtime. It's 99.96% uptime. Also, 99.9% of the jobs get an answer within under 30 seconds. So that's why when everyone's trolling me in chat going, oh, 2 minutes free a month, what are you going to do with that? Well, actually, for hugely computationally intensive challenges, actually, you should be able to do with that for free every month. Everyone can go and get some free access. So if you've got clean mathematical data, everyone here in this chat now can go onto DY's website, go onto the Leap pad and get yourself 2 minutes free a month. Not every single business can benefit from it. They've had 220 million completed jobs by the end of March, all successful completed jobs on the quantum computing system. They introduced SLAs on themselves at the back end of last year. So they hold themselves to service level agreement because they know what misinformation and manipulation there is out there in the wider sector. They've actually benchmarked the whole way of, because the physicists were so much like, we just want to one-up each other in the physicists. And obviously D-Wave was the first ones to take it commercial and go, we've got a commercial product here that can actually deliver commercial value to businesses and governments. We'll take this commercial now. So they were the pioneers in that. But obviously people have got all this old rhetoric in their head, so people don't know what they can deliver. Also, it's like a 2-year kind of process from when you onboard a customer, from problem discovery to proof of concept to pilot to business application. It's usually an 18 to 2-year timeline. What you see with the customers coming on board now is that's accelerating because they're managing to work on the back of the competitors' work on the applications. It's the same with the sectors. You know, when I was saying before about MasterCard and how MasterCard have completed like the fraud, the loyalties, and then market prediction analysis with them. And then we got CaixaBank on board, then we got BBVA on board, then we got Banco Santander on board, then we got.
So you're okay. So you're buying at 17 because you feel at 5 billion it's cheap. You think it's.
Yeah. So for me, this is still infancy in a generational wealth building company. So for me, yes, in regards to obviously the hardware, the software, the developers' tools, the like, again, with the staff retention, the PhD retention at this company, as well as the patents, as well as everything is patent protected. So they've got hybrid solvers as well. So they've got hybrid solvers and multiple hybrid solvers of how you can, companies now can implement quantum computing with the classical computing in a hybrid solver now today and still use it and still run and still have instant answers to mathematical challenges that you need. So yeah, so when we're talking 5 billion market cap, which is where we are today, right, you've got the 26 years longevity of the business development here. Most of their employees have been there for decades. They've got these 43 PhDs, which they've managed to retain for decades. They've patent protected to the hilt for the last 25 years. So even if somebody wanted to come and try and eat a Nealing's lunch today, they're going to be 20 years behind on the patents. And then DWAG don't sit still on their morals either. Do you know what I mean? So they're just going to keep putting the patents in and keep developing their tech the way they have been. So I don't see anyone coming to eat the Nealing lunch, which again is 74% of the entire TAM. The TAM that I always use is the conservative ones, because you've got people like McKinsey, for example, who's saying that the TAM is 1.3 trillion in 15 years. So I always use the B and C TAM, which is like 850 billion. And again, 74% of that, because I haven't made the point very clearly yet, that although 74% of that is optimization, right? In the last couple of years, when everyone was working on gated models and left D-Wave working on annealing themselves, which is a different variation of the quantum computing, right? They've proven now subsequently in the last 2 years, these independent researchers, that even when gated models come to fruition, they will not be able to compute the logistical and the optimization challenges the way that annealing does. So effectively discounting that TAM for all the gated models when they do come out. And what annealing can do already today, as well as optimization, which is again 75% of the entire TAM, right? But they can do the optimization, they can do the simulation, they can do the quantum machine learning, they do the drug discovery, and then do cryptography. And so this is today, this is what I'm saying, this is what I'm investing in today. A lot more will come over the foreseeable with all these gated models and all these different companies that all keep one-upping each other. But today, what's investable is a lot. Like there is a lot in D-Wave, which is snowballing now. Again, as we were saying, like when you onboard a customer and you've got all your different steps to go through before you tend to get your business use case in application, right? If we look at the stack work, which was the agricultural autonomous vehicles, so not only can that translate into all the other sectors, like construction and all the other sectors, for example, that was only that project, right, was only taken on board and it was paid for by the customers who needed it, who couldn't do it classically. Because a lot of people are going, oh, you can't do better than what you do on classical computers. Okay. Well, some of the biggest customers in the world, well, we can't do this classically. We'll pay you to do a project for us to see if this can work. And then the projects were so successful that it's now in business application. And that's all within 4 months. That's all within 4 months. And that's the same with
you think, how many computers do you think they're going to be selling once they're at their like growth?
See, this is where I don't see a need for most businesses to keep where we are today. I don't see a need for most businesses to have a hardware quantum computer. I don't.
But then how do they make their money if they?
So obviously, so they leverage the quantum computing via the Leap system, which is a cloud system. So basically, just on your computer now, you can, as long as you've got your data that you need, then you just put it into the Leap system, and then the Leap system gives you your results based on whichever algorithms needed for whichever sector.
Is the Leap system like a software that D-Wave licenses or something?
No, so it's their own software. Yes, it's their own software, and it's
you're saying this is going to be a SaaS business, not a.
It mainly is, yeah. So we've got 80% margins on the SaaS as well. But obviously, at the moment, again, when we're talking revenue, they're giving away pretty much most of their tech for free at the moment, which I personally think is the right strategy, because obviously you've got a lot of this misinformation going around. People don't really understand the value that can be delivered to their business until they see it in action. So revenue is going to come just the way the competitors are snowballing. Revenue is going to do that on its own in time. A lot personally, it's not one of my main focuses at the moment either. It's penetrating the different sectors, proving the use cases with the different problems in the different sectors, and then seeing the competitors come on board and snowball. That's where I'm like, okay, I can see the trends here of each. Like if we talk about the energy, for example, so we've got Eon, we've got Vinci Energies, we've got 5 massive big energy companies for 2 main reasons, really. One is rerouting energy through the grids, maximising flow and efficiency. Right?
That's real quick. So this is up to you. I'm going to give the ball to you if you want to do it right now. Skrelly's in the chat, and he's down to hop on and have you guys kind of debate this all out right now. It's up to you. If you don't want to do it, then we don't have to. But
yeah, no, do you know what? I'm just two caveats. Let me get the ball case out first, right? Because I've heard Skrelly the last few days, and he just demeans people. So I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to have him on afterwards, because he did challenge a few things, and really that's where I've gone hell to leather to answer, because he said that you can't find a customer that's doing anything of it, and he wants to nitpick on people's. I saw the Shay debate earlier, so I'm happy to, but I want to get out before he comes and just starts trying to.
So here's what I'll do. I'll give you another 5 minutes to take the floor. Martin, I'm going to send you the link on Twitter. Just hop on backstage, and then I'll give you 5 more minutes, and then I'll bring him on, and I will do my best to moderate it. And
yeah, no worries, because as I say, so like, it's funny, nobody apart from yourself, first person really to ask the valuation question, because then that's everyone's entitled to value things how they see fit and where they attribute value to a company. So I don't argue with people on value. People are short because of value. It's not even a problem. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just like, we're happy for short squeezes. That's all good. But when we're talking a company that has, over 300 patents in exactly what they need, they've got the 43 PhDs, they've got the 100 peer-reviewed science journals in the publications. When it's specifically for optimization, productivity, workforce scheduling, space, weight management, operations. So, for example, right, your port in LA, right, use Savantax for the cranes, and they managed to move more per crane, 60% more per crane with less time. That was such a good project that Savantex did with LA, that LA port was using. Now the entire port of Busan in Tokyo, the entire Tokyo port is now using D-Wave technology, again, for the cargo cranes, for the lifting, for the time reduction and all the rest of it, and the amount more they can use per crane. So this is where I kind of wanted to get across to people earlier as well, was when we are talking about the companies that come on board, this is why I wanted to touch on energy, for example. What they've never been able to do with energy before is flow natural resource energy with fossil fuel energy through to the same houses or through to the same grids. With D-Wave quantum computing, they can now do that. So now, because they can do that with energy grids, now we've got 5 of the biggest companies come on board. And this is what I'm seeing in all the sectors. So we started off with financial, now we've got the 9 big financial banks. And then it was automotive, and we've got 9 of the big car manufacturers. Then we got into the healthcare system. So we've just took on Pfizer as the 5th healthcare customer, for example. As I said, the autonomous vehicles work is going to be spread out to Brazil now as well. Then you've got quotes like here. We've got a quote from Recruit Group, which is, I think the most exciting part is that millions of people in Japan watch TV commercials optimized by D-Wave quantum machines and don't even know it. And that was because they do quite a lot in Japan. So NTT Docomo was the first telecommunications company that came on board. That was from Japan. And again, that's rerouting
All right,
for maximum efficiency.
Yeah, I got him backstage. I'm going to bring him on. Again, I want this to be super respectful on both sides. I'm going to let you guys go back and forth, but try not to interrupt each other too much, or else I'll just have to mute each other of you guys so you can like both get your points out. But we'll try to do this for another hour, and I want to get everyone to get their points out, and we'll have a good debate. This is what retail investors do, right? We debate different ideas. This is the whole point of investing, and we go from there. So welcome, Mr. Martin, on the show again.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I guess we'll get the question started like this. Tess has made some claims that D-Wave does have progress in terms of their commercial clients, and that they do have computers that are shipped. You obviously are short D-Wave. I will give you the stage to talk about, I guess, why you're short, and why, even if they're making some type of revenue, it's still, in your words, a scam at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, revenue is easy to analyze. It's not very controversial. It's just a number, so you can't interpret it one way or another.
But we had this discussion on X, though, pricing strategy. Well, you speak over everyone. I've watched our, so pricing strategy is very...
We could do it the nice way, or we could do it the hard way. It's up to you.
Look, you can try and demean me as much as you want, dude. Effectively, when you was on the other day, you told 27 lies, which was easily identifiable and easily debunkable. So if you can put it on, and I'm happy to listen to the bear side, but when you told 27 lies, which was easily identifiable, then, it doesn't quite sit right.
Let me ask you something. Why are you so interested in D-Wave?
So I was an analyst by trade. This is where I picked up Palantir at $7 as well. So for me, I can see the use case from my career history.
You're an investment analyst?
So I was in the corporate banking boardroom, yes.
Okay, and you just really like D-Wave?
No, do you know what? Yeah, I do know. I do know. So obviously, when the whole sector was having a bit of a path after the last quantum big conference in the November, I did obviously do deep research into each one of them. There are a few, look, I agree with you on quantum computing. It was a beverage company 2 years ago. That's some mad pivot when most people in this field have been working on it for 2-3 decades plus. In the last 2 years, obviously it's photons, so it's room temperature. Look, so I'm not here sticking up for the entirety of the sector when obviously there are a lot of manipulation going on in this sector. But I am going to speak on D-Wave, the one that I know in depth, the one that I've spoken to 86 of their customers myself, When you said to our audience last week or the week before, you cannot find one customer that will tell you what they're doing and tell you what value they're adding into their business. And I can give you quotes. As I've been spamming you on X, I can give you quotes from 86 of these customers, including countries, including your Department of Defence, including your army, including the procurement service Tradewinds, which is the new procurement service from the government to accelerate this kind. And D-Wave was the only quantum company chosen to go on to that accelerated procurement, because they know the value D-Wave offer them.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to figure out who you are. So you're a private personal investor, basically, or do you have a job?
Do I have a job?
Yeah.
I managed to retire. I retired at 31.
Okay, so the company isn't paying you or anything.
No, I'm an independent. I would always speak independently, unbiasedly. No, I do not get paid from D-Wave whatsoever.
Yeah, why do you think D-Wave doesn't have more revenue?
So we had this conversation, right? And everyone is fair to value a company the way they see fit, right? But for me, when you've got people spreading such rhetoric as yourself, and as a lot of people that misunderstand the sector and what can be delivered, until they're able to prove what they can deliver, which is sometimes an 18 months to 2 year timeline, then you're not going to be able to charge effectively. Also, they've got they've got recruitment drives on. So, for example, a few big companies, I'll drop Pepsi's name, for example. There's a few other big companies that was there who have been failed by quantum computing companies in the past. They're taking these on for free, basically, to show, well, we're not all the same. Not all quantum computing is the same. For example, you know, when you said that MasterCard weren't doing anything decent with them, well, the MasterCard CFO went to IBM initially, first in 2021, and then he gave his list of problems and they couldn't help him. He then subsequently, and he's vocal on YouTube, he's literally public for all of you to listen to. He's publicly telling you on YouTube, IBM could not do anything for me. I went and found D-Wave. D-Wave have added such value into the applications that we are doing at MasterCard. We have got a multi-year contract with D-Wave with no end date, because we've seen the value that they've actually offered us.
Okay. Can you hear me still, by the way?
Way
Yeah,
better. Way better. There you go.
Okay. So I guess when do you think the revenue is coming for D-Wave?
me personally, yeah. So see, me, like, so they themselves think that they will be profitable at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Me, I don't really see revenue ramping up. I'd be happy for the 24 months. I'd be happy to get these customers on board and show them the value first. And I'd be happy to snowball in each sector. And I would be happy to keep developing the applications on the back of the industries that have come on board. I'd be happy to do that for 24 months. I know most investors probably wouldn't agree with that. That's a fine point to disagree with. That's what I would be happy with. Although I know that they have got more of a focus on revenue than that. I know that they're more focused on it. I know that they're more happy to sell the hardware now, not just the software, not just the professional services. But again, when it does take 18 months to 2 years to get business applications into your business to being used, that's where my timeline's happy.
Okay. So are you familiar with consensus estimates?
In what regards?
The consensus revenue estimates for D-Wave.
Go on.
Okay, so next quarter, Wall Street expects that they'll do 2.6 million in revenue.
Yeah, again, because you can't. For me, you can't.
Let me add some
We
color.
can't rely on hardware sales.
The Martin, you're obviously $2 million revenue, $5 billion market cap. You think it's ridiculous. Tess is,
I get that, I've said this, haven't I? The valuation aspect of your argument, or anybody's argument, I take that with a pinch of salt, because we can all value in different ways, and I'm happy with that value. I understand if you're not. I understand if people want to short on valuation. That I wouldn't have even flinched if you said I'm short because I think the valuation's extended. I'd be like, yeah, cool, not a problem. I get it. But that's not what you said.
So I think let's set an actual point to this debate. Why? Obviously, she's buying it at 17, so she doesn't care about this current valuation. Martin, what is your disagreement with it trading at $17?
Well, I don't think the company is ever going to be profitable. But and to my understanding, they have not said when they're going to be profitable.
Well, they have, and they have in many areas. So they've got. Okay, so on their earnings call, and they didn't say a date of profitability, but they did say we've got enough cash on hand
So
to get it.
not said when.
Hang on, you haven't let me finish my point because they
didn't say when they'd be profitable, which is what I
said. But they have. So it's in their 10Ks. It's in their website.
When?
What? As in the date? As in end of 2025? Yeah, end of 2025.
What year? Yes, when?
End of 2025.
You think they've said that they'll be profitable by the end of this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'm not, but so first of all, I'll pull you that information out and take you on absolutely. Second of all, I'm not even my bull case isn't based on them being profitable at the end of this year, beginning of next year. That's not what my bull case is on. Because for me, even if it takes another 12 months, I'm happy with that. As I have said, this is why this isn't a bull point that I bang the drum on, but I will happily go and get you that information out. It's all over the website. It was on Qubits Realized.
Well, they don't have the webcast replay on their website. One of the few companies that doesn't do that.
So for their earnings call?
Yes, correct.
I'm going to check our order right now.
I have the transcript.
I've got their earnings. I've shared their earnings call on YouTube.
I listened to their earnings call too. I don't remember them saying they'd be profitable this year because that would be.
No, he didn't say this year. On the earnings call, he didn't say this year. He was explaining that they've got enough cash on hand to get to EBITDA positive sustainedly. So once they get there, they'll sustain it. That was what was on the earnings call.
Has not said that they'll be profitable by any specific time, right?
Yes, he has. By the end of 2025 and 2026. This is the point.
Okay, so let me go deeper. Martin, why is this such a big deal to you, this profitability argument?
Well, next quarter, they're projected to have less revenue than your average, laundromat. So I'm trying to figure out, why we should be excited about that.
Well, let me.
But it's not a ball point I'm selling. It's one that
let me just mention that they have 100 million in costs a year. And 2 million.
Yeah, but they've got it down from 11 million a month to about 8 million a month. But this is research and development that we want to see continue. We are happy with those expenses. We are happy with those. And the investors that actually understand D-Wave, we're happy with the R&D costs. Absolutely, we want them to research and develop.
The other investors.
I speak to a few of them. Yeah.
You speak for them.
I speak to a few of them.
Okay, but you don't speak for them.
Well, I mean, you're speaking. Let's not get pedantic because I've got your lies here written down from the last time, and I've got all 27 of them written down. Shall we go through them step by step?
No, we can talk about them. But
we're happy to.
They have around 100 million a year in expenses.
Yeah,
and they're going to do 2 a quarter in revenue. Seems like a long way from profitability.
And this is where I would agree with you. This is where you're going to get me slightly to agree with you in regards to valuation, in regards to.
This isn't about valuation.
Well, it basically is. It basically is when we're going to get enough revenue to float us to EBITDA positive. Yeah, it is. But again, it's not my point.
Hold on. So Quan obviously does not care about profitability as much as you do, Martin. So the question is, why are you stressing?
So for businesses, typically I want to see revenue and earnings. It's just something that some people care about. It's okay if you don't care about them, but for me,
it's not that we don't care, but strategy. It's not that we don't care at all, but the strategy is the right one. The strategy, absolutely. When you've got people like yourself telling people that quantum computing's 30 years away, which business lead is then going to be able to go, oh, I'm going to pay you for something that I think is just a hope, dream and unicorn that's not going to come for 30 years. Nobody. It is absolutely the right strategy to onboard them and prove your value. Absolutely. So no, revenue for the next 12 months is not going to be something I'm going to go crying about. No.
What do you think 2026 revenue will be?
Well, this is where the snowball, if you're looking into the individual sectors and if you're looking at the individual snowballs, I'm very excited about 2026. I'm excited about 2026 revenue.
Is there a number that you think that they'll hit?
No. At the end of the day, once they've locked them in to the point of some of the return on investments has come out at 2,000%. So once they've locked them in and shown them a return on investment, then revenue's just going to come. It's just going to be a byproduct of somebody not wanting to lose such a fantastic, superior product.
Okay. Do you know a lot about QUBO?
No, not really. No.
Okay. Because it seems like that's their main product.
QUBO is D-Wave's main product?
No, Jensen. He's talking about Jensen.
No, QUBO is D-Wave's main product.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant CUDA. Sorry.
QUBO, QUBO.
Yeah, no. So you're on about the solvers, the hybrid solvers.
Well, their whole shtick, in my opinion, if I may. Do I have the floor for a minute?
Go for it. You got it.
Okay, so the basic idea of D-Wave is that they take QUBO, which is quadratic, unconstrained, binary optimization.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have the floor? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, Tess, we got to let him talk.
I can wait.
Yeah, let's give him 5
Okay.
minutes.
So basically, what I believe D-Wave is that, in essence, D-Wave is a company that takes classical QUBO problems, pitches Fortune 500 companies that they can optimize their problems, and uses classical methods to do it, and basically lies about the part that quantum plays in it. That is how I sum up D-Wave.
Okay, so am I allowed to respond to that? Because we can all surmise things, okay? B, I've spoken to these chief scientists. These aren't people out there misleading people. They aren't having their scientist publications peer reviewed by all their other peers and then calling them frauds and scam artists, which is basically what you're doing there. And it's basically what you have done. However, again, there's arguments and people want to argue the point of how it's not quantum computing or how it's this or it's how it's that. Well, they are harnessing quantum mechanics to compute and they are delivering a product that classical computers can't achieve for them. So at the end of the day, when that product for any business is delivering such value, you can get yourself caught up on the hairs of what you want to call it, but at the end of the day, they are developing at a rapid speed. And I know you've seen the stuff that I've posted on X in regards to when you were saying about nobody's using it, and then I posted you the autonomous vehicles work that literally Canada's bought, Australia's bought, UAE has bought, now Brazil is buying. So whichever, and these you're laughing, Rob, but these are PhDs. These are literally doctorates and PhDs in their fields that know what they're doing, that are literally going, we need this, that are talking on a live stage publicly for the world to listen to them with all the letters after their name. So you can try and tell people that it's not, but I've literally I'm inundated with PhD doctorates explaining how it is and what is different. And when, again, this is why I want to stay on the autonomous vehicle route, because these are the people telling you, the customers are paying for it, telling you we cannot do this with classical methods. These are our limitations with classical methods, and these are why. And then they've gone out and proved they can do it with D-Wave, and now they're all paying for it. So again...
Did you say they were paying for it?
Yes.
When are they going to pay a lot of money for it?
Yeah, and I get that, but unfortunately for stuff like that, so they're paying Verge. So Verge leverages D-Wave computer again. It's just such a different argument to me, right? Valuation and revenue than it is scam scam company with no products, no customers. They're two very different arguments, and I'm not even. I actually do feel a little bit. I'm a bit like it's always through the third party who's helping. Who's going to get the revenue at the moment, but it is a snowball kind of race that we're in.
There are some quantum experts that are dismissive of D-Wave. not just me.
I get that. I get that because of one thing that I had to, I'm not a science person by nature. I know you might be more of, but before I got into analysing the business fundamentals, obviously I had to understand the sciences and the variations and the different ways of doing it, and also comparable nature. So obviously I have got the comparables from IDC, from Hyperion Research, from all the independents, comparing all the models against each other, which ones are slower, etc. Like D-Wave are the only SOC 2 compliant. They're SOC 2 compliant because they're not a scam. Like,
Okay, so Martin, you've been asking a lot of questions. Let me give you the floor to actually kind of make your points in this debate. Why do you still think, after hearing everything Tess is saying, that D-Wave's a scam?
Well, I haven't heard anything that. So I guess I would take it a few different ways. So the first is that the major authorities in quantum, and I consider those to be John Preskill, who worked with Richard Feynman, who came up with the concept of a quantum computer, Scott Aronson, who wrote one of the few books on quantum computing, Michael Nielsen, Isaac Chung. There are only so many people in quantum that are well regarded. There's a lot of pretenders and second tier people, but all of those people are very bearish on D-Wave. Scott Aronson has gone further than I have. He's just a scientist. He has no axe to grind. So I think the science isn't there. And the reason that I think you can believe me on that is that D-Wave's been around a long time, and they've been selling the same computer for a long time. And if they were like IonQ or Rigetti saying there's a big magic machine coming in 5 years, then I would understand. But they're not saying that. They're saying you should use our big magic machine right now. It works right now. Buy it, rent it, etc. Then you look at the revenue and you say, well, nobody's doing that, obviously, in any size. And then two, if you look at, again, the science, if there's such a miraculous speed up, then why aren't more companies doing it? Many companies and published papers have reported that, in fact, there is no speed up and that classical compute is just as good. There's a company called Garobi that solves Cubo. There are many, many ways to do Cubo. It's not clear that the classic, quote unquote, quantum hybrid solver is anything but just classic, with a quantum sprinkle on top that makes it sound quantum. In fact, that's one of the former D-Wave employees said that to one of my colleagues. They said that the quantum is just there for marketing, that it's just a classic solver. So basically what I think D-Wave is, after months and months of working on this, it's basically a consulting company that goes to companies that may have optimization problems, solves them classically, which is a serious business. That's a real business. That kind of business, though, is like basically a consultancy that's worth around 2 times revenue. They don't have much revenue. You can go to IBM or Accenture and get an optimization. In fact, Toshiba does it as well. In fact, there are leaders in optimization that do this, many Japanese companies. And they'll charge you basically for their time. You can hire an optimization consultant. And typically they go with Garobi. D-Wave has their own people. They try to sell, but they've failed. And we've had years and years and years of D-Wave trying to succeed, but they couldn't succeed as a privately held company. They needed to SPAC. Once they SPAC'd, they were publicly traded for 3 years. They had $8 million in revenue, which again is smaller than a lot of laundromats and quickie marts here in New York. And then they had the next year where they had $8 million in revenue again. Then they had the next year where they had $8 million in revenue again. They sold one computer to Ulick on a budget flush. Now they're back to $8 million revenue again. In fact, if you look at the bookings for their latest quarter, they're down 50%. So D-Wave isn't growing. I think it's actually shrinking. And I think that D-Wave wants to take advantage of this big quantum compute wave of quote unquote real quantum computers that actually are quantum gate based. And they're trying to sort of envelope themselves in that kind of quantumness that is bullish right now and take advantage of it. And we've seen that happen. And of course, the CEO sold a bunch of stock. They've raised a lot of money. There isn't any institutional investor. If Qantas is right, Quantesla, if you're right, there should be Citadel, Millennium, Fidelity, Putnam, some large stockholders who have bought the stock in size, but they don't have any stockholders. When they need capital, they do an ATM financing, which we all know is the lowest quality of capital possible. They did a SPAC, which is the lowest possible quality way to go public. This is a very low quality company. The CEO is based in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. It's just not a company that speaks to trust and success. And we'll see how the next quarter goes. I think if the next quarter, if we're back to 2 million in revenue every quarter, the stock will drop 95% because the mask will be off. The quantum is not here today. And at least it's not growing for this company. So that's the way I look at D-Wave.
Tess, you're
that went on for quite a while. So the things that I remembered that was blatantly false again was Fidelity have owned D-Wave in about 10 different funds. Goldman own them in many different funds. In fact, they've got quite a few institutional owners. What was the other thing he was going on about? So yes.
Wait. Did you say Fidelity owns the stock right now?
Fidelity owns the stock in 10 different funds, yeah.
I don't see that on my screen.
All right. Do you know how many shares they own, Tess? At all? You're muted. You're muted, Martin.
I only see BlackRock and Vanguard, which are indexers, so they don't have a human being sitting there saying, "I like this stock."
Yeah,
I mean, this is stuff I look at every day. It's uncommonly low amount of institutional holders.
You had several points. Fidelity do own them in several funds. So
how much stock do they own?
I will get those answers after.
According to my Bloomberg, is 0.
Okay, so then if they've sold out and we're still held up here, then that's still bullish for me.
Is there a big institutional stockholder that owns D-Wave that you think is bullish?
So, well, Bezos put up a lot of money, didn't he?
When it was private, Bezos put some money in it, and it's been down 95% since then. And they did a recap privately, and then a SPAC. So it's been pretty rough for anybody that was in the privately held D-Wave from years ago.
Wow, that's funny because the geezer who put him 300 million from his Uber, he's got his paid back, hasn't he? That's funny.
I have no clue what you just said.
The Uber guy put 300 million in. He's got his money back.
Who?
So you was talking about pre-public.
Bezos put 300 million a year ago, is what she's saying.
No, the Bezos and the Uber guy are two separate.
So who put 300 million, Tess?
The Uber guy, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Emilio, the Uber guy, the ex-Uber guy.
Oh, the Uber CTO, the ex-Uber CTO. Okay.
But anyway, you made several points that I was trying to get back to. One being the funds not owning them. Two being how they've been in business all this time and not made. What is your point there? So hang on. So they've been in business for 26 years, yes, since when they started. Now, from X, I talked to Geordie Rose, and you must know he's a phenomenal brain. You're going to try and put him down as the founder of D-Wave. But that was it. It was physicists talking and arguing amongst themselves. They do, because they all just wanted to one-up each other. And obviously they was all very much in the science side of it and the science world of it. And not one of them was caring about taking it commercial, taking it to a business need. So the arguments you bring up between this theoretical scientists still having in the lab still is very different from the people on the ground getting it to commercial. Then you were saying about it's no more than just classical solvers. Well, how come we've got PhDs within the Army, within the Department of Defence, within all of these behemoths saying then that they could not do this classically at all through any of these? You mentioned some company that does optimization problems. Well done for them. Oh yeah, that was it. You were trying to say there was consultancy. That was it. So how come all these PhDs within these behemoths then are going, I can only do this for you, and I've never been able to do this classically? Because I can inundate you with these quotes, and I think you know I can.
I think you know that many have disputed this exact thing, right?
But no, this is what I'm saying. The people leveraging it. This is the issue, isn't it? So when there is so much old rhetoric being spewed out, this is why businesses don't know what they can achieve with quantum. Because when you're saying about the revenue, how is the revenue not up yet? How can, and if it's this much old rhetoric going around, how on earth are these businesses supposed to know that they can not only leverage it today, what value they can harness from it today?
So let me try this a different way. is there a scientific reason why annealing should be faster than a classical computer?
Well, at the end of the day, I'm going to go, right, because although I've spoken to these scientists and although I could go and speak to the chief scientist now and get an answer to your specific sciencey questions, what I am going to do as a business analyst is I'm going to then look at the customers, because I can give you these quotes of all the different reductions in time. So it's Stack and Verge and the water agency and the grain agency telling you that it's tenfold quicker, telling you that you can do 10,000 fields at a time when there was limited at 10 on classical computing. It's them telling you not only the time accelerations, but also the cost reductions to them, whether it be in fuel, whether it be CO2 reduction in emissions, all the other shebang of what they're achieving value on. So why wouldn't I believe Patterson Foods telling me that they can now do it 80% quicker? Why wouldn't I believe them? They know what they was doing it at before. They know what they're doing it at now. Why wouldn't I believe Savantax and LA Ports telling me that they can now move 60% more per crane? Because actually, off the back of that work, Tokyo turned around and went, we're going to use it for the entirety of all the cranes in our port now because it's such a good stepping stone.
I have a good response to that, but I just want to make sure that you can't give a scientific reason why
I'm not the science person. Science
should be faster than the classical compute.
Should be faster. So for me, I'm not going to give you a science answer. I'm going to give you 86 business answers of how it has been faster. And the results.
I just wanted to make sure that,
yeah, so the results in business application today are showing it is.
Okay, because there's like for NVIDIA, you could say, well, they're actually having these streaming multiprocessors that go in parallel, whereas on a normal chip, you can't get that much hyper-threading. You only get 24 cores. On NVIDIA, you have 10,000 cores, all streaming at the same clock speed. That's a scientific argument. This is a scientific space. This isn't investing in retail or some supermarket or television or something. This is detailed science. And I think that you kind of do have to know the science to invest in a scientific company. In biotech, I have to know the pharmaceutical space really well. I learned the chemistry, I learned the biology. But in terms of your specific point, I do want to address that. They have customers. How do you know that those customers didn't just do a Cubo and that they didn't test it against a Cubo without quantum and that they just didn't do a classical? Because there's a lot of people that say every time they try to head-to-head match the exact experiment of D-Wave versus a traditional computer, people have used laptops and beaten D-Wave, let alone big clusters or anything like that. I now have access to a D-Wave annealer, so I'm going to be setting up some experiments to show that there is no experiment that can't be beaten with just a regular computer than D-Wave, because there is no scientific reason why. In quantum computing, the main scientific reason is that you can shift complexity classes, that you can go from an exponential process to a polynomial process and vice versa, that you do not want to be in a regime where the scale of the problem goes exponentially. You want to be in a regime where the scale of the problem goes polynomially. The only way you can do that is by taking advantage of quantum effects. Quantum effects are very few and far between. In fact, the main quantum effect that's known is Shor's algorithm. There is no annealing Shor's equivalent. In fact, there is no reason to believe at all that there's a scientific speed up available from the complexity class. Shor's is a very limited problem. It's obviously a problem that involves biprimes, discrete log, cryptography stuff. Grover's is a search problem that goes to quadratic. It's a quadratic speed up. It's O root n from ON, but it's not the kind of speed up that people are excited about. So without a complexity class speed up and a quantum algorithm that's actually faster, I have a hard time understanding how this is any different from classical. And D-Wave hasn't said how much of their system is classical versus how much of their system is quantum.
Go ahead, Tess.
Okay, so Jesus Christ. Right. So in regard, what was you fucking? You're just going on and on. You're gonna have to break it up a
frame
little
the
bit.
question. Do you think
Thank you. Yeah.
do you think you need a sort of scientific argument?
Oh, right. So yeah, but again, the only reason I say that I'm not going to have the scientific debate is because I'm not a scientist by brain. But what I can do, and this is what I've told him before, what I can do is actually show you, and I have done, that the classical comparable to D-Wave's quantum annealers, and that's been done by PhDs. So that's been done by PhDs from the University of Tokyo. That's been done for PhDs from Los Alamos, from the University of Columbia. That's been done by PhDs at Verge. That's been done by PhDs from, like, literally the people telling you and showing me, right, the difference between classical and quantum and D-Wave quantum computing. They're all PhD doctorates.
I hate to say this, but how do you know you're not being BS'd?
What, by the entire? Okay.
Well, hold on, because there's a lot of people that think that have published.
So you think? So let me ask: is this a really? So this is your valid point. Yeah, you think the University of Tokyo, the University of Los Angeles, the University of Columbia, the University of Los Alamos, Hyperion Research, IDC. You think all of these independent people are going to conspire together to allow one fraudulent company to prosper? Come on, dude.
Have you looked at the controversy that D-Wave's created?
I have looked at it. I have, and you know what? But it's not been debunked. If you're talking about the quantum supremacy paper that was in the Scientist, and no one's debunked it. You can't debunk it 3 months later.
I want to just read out. I mean, there are many people who have said, like at NYU and his colleagues say they've performed similar calculations on a normal laptop in just 2 hours.
This is where, when it's in peer-reviewed papers, that's where it's very interesting, because a lot of people can make these claims, can't they, Martin? But that's when all the other peers review it and no one has been able to disprove it, because everyone's taking little parts of the problem and going, well, we've been able to do this little bit here faster. They didn't do the entire problem. They didn't reduce it down what it was needed to be reduced down to, and they're literally cherry picking specific little results to give to people. And that is exactly why, when it's peer reviewed, I'll listen to that a lot more. So when I've got hundreds of scientists peer reviewing something together and all agreeing and not being able to debunk it, I'm going to take that as
I don't know if they all agree. I think you should double check. I think there's some people that think it's all a scam.
Yeah, I've seen two theoretical physicists. Maybe. I haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen the amount of people that you apparently suggest that there is. However, even off the back of the couple that I have seen, they're still not been able to disprove it in a peer-reviewed publication. They can all say what they want in their own little individual corners, but when you all get together, it's proven that D-Wave achieved quantum supremacy. That's proven in the science publication. You can
listen, if you're right, then D-Wave revenue will skyrocket. And, next quarter, they'll do more than 2 million in revenue. But in the meantime...
You're very short-sighted for next quarter, though, aren't you? You're very short-sighted for next quarter. I'm not looking forward to the revenues for next quarter. I'm literally happy for these 12 months to play out the way the trends are playing out.
I invest in biotech where it takes sometimes 10 years to get revenue. So I can be patient. But D-Wave isn't saying be patient. They're not saying quantum is 10 years from now. They're saying buy our stuff now. So if they're saying that, I should see the revenue now. But all I'm getting for next quarter is 2 million. I'm not even sure they'll do 2 million next quarter.
Because the new people that they're onboarding, and I've spoken to a few of these people myself face to face, and there is a lot of myth going around in this sector. They are not aware of the value that can be assigned to them. Also, a lot of people don't even understand that they've got to clean through the data first, etc., and have the viable data to put through. There's a lot of steps before revenue is going to be an important factor once you've onboarded that customer.
All right, so I'm gonna let's end this out in the next 5 minutes, and we'll keep going from there. But let's do some closing statements, because we had some good back and forth here. But Martin, I guess your final point on everything going on.
Yeah, listen, I think that D-Wave is a company that has very little revenue, even though they're saying that their product is useful today. If you look at the business, it's been largely a failed business, because
it's not a failed business.
They have a very minuscule amount of revenue and a very large amount of costs. And in fact, net of the Juliak one-off computer sale, I think that revenue will basically have been flat for 4 years, which makes sense since this company is really old and they're not actually doing anything wildly new with the technology.
We only had probably 2022.
Quiet down, please. They're improving it slightly. And so this generation is the 6th generation of this annealer. And if they have customers that really love their product and they're really valuable, they should have more than 8 million in revenue. And if they'll do, more than 2 next quarter or 3, I'd be shocked. So it's a business where the product doesn't have a theoretical basis in science. The world's leading experts have crapped on D-Wave. They have not supported it. Preskill and Aronson are the real deal. The fathers of quantum computing, and the market is telling you there's nobody buying this product. If they can grow revenue 50% or 100%, when you see technological shifts like NVIDIA and AI, revenue is up 200%. When you see OpenAI, their revenue is up 10x. D-Wave bookings were down last quarter. It's a company that's clearly struggling to find customers, struggling to show a value of their product that's actually coming from their product. I do believe they do legitimate optimization work, but I think they hide the fact that most of that work's done classically, and that they're helping companies like that tiny Canadian grocery store. They help them do optimization work, but they're just doing it with classical methods, and they're calling it quantum, and it's just a sales trick. And that's why their revenue is so low. It's a wildly overvalued company. It's not real quantum. It's not the promise of doing Grovers or doing Shores or doing something really scientific. It's this kind of old style system. It's generally the laughing stock of the quantum industry. And, it's sort of obvious to anybody who looks at it.
Having said that, Tess, before I give you the final word, you are down on the short, Martin. Is your argument just eventually it'll come crashing? And
yeah, I hope it goes up higher. At the end of the day, the higher it goes, the more money I'll make when it drops. I've done this so many times in my career. D-Wave, I remember when I was a teenager and D-Wave was just getting started. They've been lying about their company since day one. It's been 20 something years and they still have 8 million in revenue. To me, if I started a company 21 years ago and I still had 8 million in revenue, I don't know. That's like a business hall of shame. That's like the worst possible performance you can get. I'd make more money, selling encyclopedias or doing a laundromat or a lemonade stand. Like $8 million of revenue after 21 years of trying to sell the same old quantum annealer. People aren't buying it. It's a joke.
Okay, Tess, final word to you.
People would have said that's Valley's Cart 3 years ago as well, wouldn't I? So I'm just gonna, obviously, if we're just ending, right, I'm just gonna end with a list of their customers that I've got quotes from. And bearing in mind, when quite a lot of these take the public stage, these are PhD doctorates that know how to compare between classical and D-Wave. They know these aren't, you're trying to make out, look, you use a lot of slander, but you are trying to make out that all of these behemoths of customers don't know what they're talking about. And when I've listened to many of their PhDs, they do, and they know how to compare against the classical systems, and they know how to compare against the D-Wave systems. So when we're talking, these are the ones that I've got quotes from, glowing quotes, I might add. So because get a pen, darling, because you did say that you couldn't find one customer with quotes that will tell you what they're doing. So I'll read you a few of their names so that you can go to these. So you can go to MasterCard, you can go to Toyota, you can go to Siemens, you can go to ArcelorMittal, you can go to Davidson Technologies, you can go to Deloitte, you can go to Denso, you can go to Patterson Food, you can go to Good Lab Studio, you can go to the NEC Corporation, you can go to Unisys, you can go to Lockheed Martin, you can go to Accenture, you can go to BBVA, you can go to Bankia or Caxa Bank, you can go to Save-On Foods, you can go to Volkswagen, you can go to NTT Docomo, you can go to Polaris, you can go to Japan Tobacco, you can go to Savantix, you can go to IPG, you can go to BASF, you can go to Ford Ottson, you can go to Banco Santander, you can go to Hyundai, you can go to Delaware, you can go to Airbus, you can go to GE Research.
They got the whole S&P 500. They got the whole S&P 500.
BMW, Stack, Vinci Energies, Interpublic, Groovenauts, Mitsubishi. Well, hang on a minute, because last week you're saying that the
They've got every company.
they were doing.
Why do they need? They've got every company. Why do they need more sales?
Shimizu. But hang on a minute, you said they had no customers. Hang on a moment. Shimizu, Sigma Eye, GMV, Eon,
They don't
Yeah,
do any more. They don't do any more sales.
Menton
They got 'em
AI,
all.
Civica, NASA. I mean, I could go on, lads.
Where? What? Why is it? Okay, I mean, that's a lot of customers. I'm really impressed. Listen, Tesla, if you ever come to New York City, I'll take you out and we'll settle our differences. I'll show you my emuler.
Sounds like a euphemism.
All right, cool. There we go. The debate is done. I'm sure this quantum saga will continue for a very long time, and all of us will be tuning in to see how this plays out. Tess
Thanks
is
a lot.
YouTube. Yeah, Martin, thank you.
Nice to meet you. I appreciate it.
Martin, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Tess's YouTube right there. Martin's Twitter I'll put in the chat as well. And yeah, that is pretty much it for today. Tess, thank you for coming on and doing the debate. It was awesome. It was great. And
No worries, dude.
we will be relying on your DD on quantum in the chat.
Yeah, look, one thing I will say, obviously, I only invest in what I can invest in today. It is a continual evolving, emerging sector in infancy. So it's always changing. You just got to keep up with it.
All right. There you go. And if you guys want more details, her YouTube, again, right here, she's been doing some streams here and there where she interacts with the audience, gets questions, all this stuff. So please make sure to subscribe if you are into the quantum space. All right. Tess,
Thanks,
thank you.
dude.
I'll see you in the chat. Bye-bye. Thank you. All right. Cool. We're done. I don't think we need to have another quantum debate. People have wanted it for a long time. We got it done. It is what it is. You can agree with whoever you thought made the better arguments in the debate. At the end of the day, it's quantum. It is a new industry. You're either invested in it or not invested in it. But we have to embrace debate as retail investors. Having said that, we got a lot of news happening after hours. Tesla's running, Bitcoin's running, Robinhood's running, Tesla's running, Vlad, he's on CNBC. Let's hear what he has to say. And then we got a bunch of other headlines. Grab also with a headline after hours that I think is pretty bullish. Let's get into all that stuff right now.
Roundtable with CEOs earlier this afternoon to tout the modestly named Trump accounts, investment, social security number, and a brokerage account. They really changed the game. What's the potential impact on Robinhood?
I think the potential impact is extreme. So me personally, I had the opportunity to learn about investing, discover the stock market as a child, and you can create a through line between that and me becoming passionate about the markets, starting Robinhood, which now serves over 26 million Americans, helping them get into the stock market. Many of those Americans under the age of 40. So this would extend that. You know, Robinhood currently serves customers 18 and over. This would extend that to every newborn child, which is about 3.7 million per year, with a brokerage account with $1,000 in it. That's passively invested in the S&P 500 and getting people to buy into the biggest American companies and be invested, being owners of our capital system from a young age. I think it's amazing. And I just got a meeting with President Trump and a bunch of other CEOs and leaders, members of Congress, all in support of this great initiative.
Well, a big challenge here, isn't it, is investor education, financial education. We don't do enough of that in this country. We certainly try to do it here on CNBC, but there's so much of the U.S. population that doesn't really own stocks, hasn't really invested the time in learning about the stock market. That becomes a real tangible issue with something like this, does it not?
It does, absolutely. And what Robinhood can bring to the table here is our technology and product resources. We actually have a working demo of what this app could look like. And we had 3 goals really with it. Number one, obviously, to build a great, easy experience for adults and children eventually to manage these accounts. Number 2, illustrate the magic of compound interest and what it can do over time. But number 3 is actually, as you said, educate the kids and educate them not only about financial literacy, but also about America and our capitalist system, and actually instill a great deal of civic pride about our country and our financial system, which is the envy of the world. It's been the greatest wealth creation engine in history. So we're excited to contribute along with a number of great companies to make this a reality.
Yeah, an important engine indeed. Now, on with Robinhood, what have you seen, particularly over the last couple of months, in retail investor behavior and appetite for risk as we've seen these dramatic market swings?
Yeah, so if you look at our customers tend to be young. We do have we do have first-time investors that have joined the platform and have grown with us, but average customer is right around the age of 35. And what you're seeing is our customers are investing in the future of technology and innovation. So they believe in electric vehicles, they believe in artificial intelligence, clean energy, and so when they see opportunities to buy these great companies in these industries at a discount, they tend to increase their buying, and that's led to net deposits and overall activity on the platform being at or near record highs over the past few months.
You recently closed the Bitstamp acquisition. I believe it's expected to add around $65 million to the expense base across the rest of the year. What optimistically do you think it's going to add offerings-wise for that young audience that you say is optimistic and growth-oriented?
Yeah, well, actually, the last time I was here at the White House was a few months ago for the crypto summit. And I think there's two ways to look at crypto. One is as a trading asset and as a portion of your portfolio, much like equities or options or futures. But the other is as a fundamental technology layer. And I think this second one is much more interesting. I think crypto technology is going to power the bulk of what we today consider to be traditional financial services. The markets will be powered by crypto technology. What we consider to be traditional banking and payments will all be powered. And so our acquisition of Bitstamp ensures that we're at the forefront of this by giving us a globally scaled exchange, which is the foundation not just of the technology behind offering these services, but also the start of a global institutional business with over 5,000 institutional customers.
All right.
So we're still at the very beginning, but there's a lot to build.
Okay, this is freaking bullish, bro. This is wild, dude. This kind of changes the trajectory of how I thought about Robinhood. I can't believe it's clicking in my head for the first time. By the way, Tesla 314. We'll talk about Tesla in just a second. But literally today, I'm putting the pieces together. I cannot believe when Brad, we were on this show when we found out that Gerstner put in 120 million in Robinhood. By the way, Triple V, he bought more Robinhood today. He sold his Grab at 505. He sold his HIMS at 55.55. He had 100,000 shares of HIMS. He had 1 million shares of Grab. He sold both of those, and he bought 1.3 million shares of Hood at 70. So he did take advantage of Hood. He owns like he owns 0.5% of the company, so he's pretty bullish on Robinhood. But I can't believe it didn't click in my head that, wait a second, Gerstner is trying to set up this $1,000 account for every American, every newborn American. Robinhood is the most millennial Gen Z friendly product. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that Vlad would be at the White House today talking with Trump about this idea that they could put together a product, in this case right here, a working demo, that would be applicable for all these newborn kids that are gonna have access to the markets. And look what they did right here. So obviously they didn't create this overnight. They've been probably working on this for the past couple of weeks, right? Look at this demo. Claim your 1,000 signed by President Trump. You cannot tell me that the Trump administration did not talk with Robinhood, or that some representative did not talk with Robinhood, or that Gerstner himself did not talk with Robinhood and say, hey, you guys should design a demo that Trump's going to like. I mean, you tell me Trump's not going to like this? $1,000 signed by President Trump. You swipe up to invest and boom, you get $1,000 from Donnie T. I mean, this is almost exactly what Trump did back in 2020 with the $600 stimulus checks. He signed his name on it, right? It was called the Trump stimulus check. That was in December of 2020. So Robinhood didn't come up with this demo in the past 5 hours. They've been probably working on this for the past month. And the fact that it says signed by President Trump and the accounts are called Trump accounts, I don't know if that's the official name, but that's what Trump referenced them as at today. They probably are the official name. But the fact that they've known about this for the past month now means that there's been some level of collaboration between Robinhood and the administration, or this was just Robinhood being really smart and saying, hey, let's create something really cool so that when Trump sees this, he's going to be very excited, and he might, to some extent, streamline the process of Robinhood being the de facto brokerage that these kids are going to use. So, yeah, glazing. Dude, this is the most glazing of Trump you could imagine right here. Welcome to Invest America. Swipe up to get your $1,000 signed by President Donald Trump. I mean, when you talk about glazing, this is the type of glazing I want to see from my CEO. But there you go. That's what we got from Vlad. And this changes the dynamics of the stock. There you go, 74 after hours. It really does, folks. They got a massive crypto event coming up. S&P inclusion eventually will happen. Q2, I think, is going to be at record highs. We already know that May was at record highs. And then you've got potentially 3.5 million accounts. Let's say they get half of that. 1.5 million new accounts every year on autopilot that you get incorporated into the Robinhood ecosystem. It really does change the growth trajectory on how I'm thinking of this name. And it's clicking in my head right now. And then you got Bitcoin, 110 after hours. That's also helping Robinhood. Bitcoin right here, 110.3. This was at 107 this morning, or 106 this morning. Or it was at 106, 105 last night, got to 107 this morning, now at 110. I don't know why Bitcoin's running. If anyone has a catalyst, let me know. But it is running right here, up 4%, $3,000 candle, not too bad. And that's obviously helping Robinhood as well. MicroStrategy and Coinbase, let's see after hours. Then we'll talk about Tesla. MSTR up 6%, almost at 400. Great for MSTY. And then Coinbase right here, 258. Okay, why is Tesla breaking 314 after hours? Very simple. Take a look at this screenshot that I just posted when we finished with the debate. So President Donald Trump on Elon Musk, we had a great relationship and I wish him well, very well actually. Elon responded with a heart. We started off the show showing you guys that Trump said that he is a fan of Elon and that he's going to keep Starlink and that he doesn't want, he wishes him well. He doesn't think he's on drugs, yada, yada. So very gracious about this whole situation. You know, Elon obviously dropped the nuke on Trump. Trump's not really engaging in the pettiness of the behavior. And Elon's responding with a heart. I mean, from that perspective, obviously a heart doesn't mean the stock needs to go up by 7%. But what it does mean from a market perception perspective is that, hey, maybe this bromance, at worst, it's not done. Like at minimum, there's a relationship there that's not deteriorated at minimum. And maybe worst case scenario, they just don't talk anymore. Best case scenario, they make up and they become friendly again. But worst case, they're not, the relationship's not destroyed, which, obviously would be a good thing for Tesla as well. Now, look, we don't know when the robotaxi event is starting. A lot of people are saying June 12th, but Tesla did apply for a license to be an autonomous vehicle driver this morning in Texas, and they're officially listed on the Texas DMV, or the Austin DMV. But we don't, know if they're going to launch robotaxi in the next 3 days, and eventually we'll see in the next 3 days. But regardless, if the bromance is back on, I mean, there you go. If the bromance is back on, there you go. And that's why Tesla's getting some love. Now, we do have some Grab news as well. So look, it's going to sound bearish, but to me, it's pretty damn bullish. And I felt they were lying in the morning. I still think they're lying. Grab has filed a convertible note offering for $1.25 billion, senior convertible notes that are due in 2030. Look, I really don't think they're raising $1.2 billion when they already have $6 billion in cash if they're not doing an acquisition. I mean, like at some point, like we gotta see through the BS. If you have $6 billion in cash, why would you raise $1.2 billion? Especially when the stock has been flat all year. It's not like the stock's at $10, and it's not like CoreWeave where the stock was at $120 and they were like, "Holy crap, this is a great time to raise money." Grab's not appreciated massively this year. Grab's flat this whole year. So to me, this is just pretty obvious that they don't need $1.2 billion unless you need $1.2 billion. And most likely it's probably because you need that money to get the job done. So instead of doing a loan, they just said, let's raise the money itself. And I think, again, if you're going to raise $1 billion and you already have $6 billion in cash, that means something is happening. Now, what is happening? I don't know. Because this morning they said they're not going to be acquiring GoTo. I'm calling BS on that, but we'll see how it plays out. But you don't raise $1.5 billion for no reason. They're buying Bitcoin. I don't think they'd be buying Bitcoin. I wouldn't hate if they buy Bitcoin, but I don't think they're going to be doing that. Grab as a lot of these companies that are buying Bitcoin ultimately don't have actual businesses, so they become Bitcoin treasuries. Nothing's wrong with that. It's just Grab as a real business that can, actually grow 30, 40% over the next decade. And so I don't think they need to buy Bitcoin as a safe haven right here. Tesla trying to break 315 right here after hours, 314.95. Robin at 74, Palantir 131.64, closed at 132. There she goes, 315 on Tessie after hours. The street likes that the relationship might be back to normal right here. But I think Grab is definitely doing something with this money. It doesn't make any sense for them to raise this much money. So this is going to be the exact details are they can redeem the notes early after June 21st, 2028 if the stock price exceeds 130% of the conversion price. So if they're converting at $5, that means the stock's got to be at basically 1030 for them to convert, which is consistent with what my price target is in a couple of years, around that $10 range. And more importantly, if they're raising 1.2 billion, the question is why. Now, the convertible note says general corporate purposes, strategic flexibility, and share buybacks. Like, to me, that means they're buying a company, dude. Like, in general corporate purposes, you already have $6 billion in cash. You already have $6 billion in cash. Like, if you needed to do general corporate purposes, I mean, you have the money. It's not like you don't have $6 billion lying around in the bank account collecting treasury income. Like, you have the money. So to me, the $7 billion price has been what's rumored for GoTo. They have $6 billion. They just raised 1.2. 6 plus 1.2 is 7.2. Kind of feels when you put the dots together that might be what they're going for, but I don't know. We're going to find out over the coming months. But it seems like that could be playing out right here. The heart Elon put on in an X post is fake. No, it's not. I got that exactly from Elon's. This is the post itself. It is not fake. Elon tweeted that at 5:19 p.m. Eastern. That is a real tweet. So look, if Elon's dude, Elon called him. Elon said he was on the Epstein list, and now Elon's putting a heart underneath Trump. I don't know. And then for those that missed what Trump said, here's what he said. But it does feel like, maybe he was just a little manic on Thursday, and he's coming back down, and like things might go back to normal.
Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually, about the
I got so many locations that I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla, did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask.
did have an argument, but I didn't see. I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
That is what Elon responded to with a heart. I mean, look, if the stock's pumping on a heart, then the stock's pumping on a heart. 314.96 right here. And the heart represents, hey, maybe the relationship is not fractured. Does that mean earnings are going to be good in Q2? No, earnings are going to suck. But, the market didn't care if earnings sucked in Q1. So it is what it is. I mean, dude, in this type of environment, given how bullish the AI sentiment is becoming and how many results we're seeing publicly, ChatGPT hitting almost 10 billion in revenue in ARR this morning, it's just like, the AI names of our generation, the Teslas, the NVIDIAs, the Palantir, I don't know if they're only going to, I mean, this is what Martin might be wrong on. The D-Wave, regardless of if you're bullish or not on it, it might not trade on fundamentals of a PE or price of sales because there's just a lot more bullish sentiment on this overall growth curve we're having that quantum might be a part of. Now, Tess thinks of it differently than Skrelly. He thinks of it differently than her. But the point is, if there's real revenues eventually, real growth rates eventually, like OpenAI showed us today, that NVIDIA's been showing us for the past 2 years, that Palantir started showing us recently, then market's going to get a premium. Now, look, Tesla's not showing that growth, but Tesla gets a little bit of a pass here because it's Tesla. And eventually when they show that growth, if it's trading at 200 times earnings with no growth, I can't imagine what it's trading at when they actually do start growing. And the question is just, when that growth ends up playing out for Tesla. So that's what we got. Elon should write Trump a love letter. You know what, dude? Look, I don't disagree with that because Trump has been the bigger man this whole time. He's not really taken a low blow at Elon at all, from my understanding. If Elon legit is the bigger man and apologizes for what he said, I think Trump would forgive him. It's kind of hard to forgive someone who, you know, says you're on the Epstein list, but and you know, publicly embarrasses you, all this stuff. But I do think that because he's been the bigger man, if Elon just swallows his pride and says, you know what, I was being stupid on Thursday when I posted that. I shouldn't have posted it. Like, first of all, I think he's going to get a lot of support from his base because they're going to be happy that he's mending relationships with the president. And then number two, I think MAGA is going to be like, all right, yeah, cool. You're back in the club. You know, and then I think Trump's going to be like, all right, cool. You know, we're still friends. So I don't think that's the worst idea. I really don't. I think that would be rather productive for Tesla going into the long term as well. So that's what we got on Tessie. And then Bitcoin after hours. I still don't know why it's moving, but it's moving. Robinhood at 74, Bitcoin just under 110. Whatever reason it's moving, it's definitely helping all the crypto plays. Tesla right here, 314, and then Nvidia 142.73 on the day currently right now. That's what we got. That's what we got after hours. So the big news here was Grab with the convertible notes. Again, I don't think you raise $1 billion. And that's why, the Grab's not even tanking after hours. Usually when companies raise a ton of money, if they don't need it, if there's like the BS convertible note raises, stock tanks at least 10, 15%. CoreWeave didn't tank because the market knew that it was advantageous for them to raise that money because the stock was pumping like crazy. And I think Grab's not really tanking right now because the market's like, well, they're raising it for a reason. And if they didn't have $6 billion in cash, I would say, okay, they're just, diluting to dilute. But the fact that they have this much money and they still need more money, the only obvious answer is signaling that they're doing an acquisition and they need a crap ton of money to make that acquisition play out. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what we're seeing from Grab. And then you got Robinhood right here, 74 after hours currently right now. Apple, ironically, this has been the laggard of the day, even though they had the most announcements. Apple 201. I think part of the market genuinely dumped Apple today and bought Tesla. And they were like, this is just stupid. Like, there's no way we can be investing in generative emojis and think there's a growth curve here. It seems like that's why we're seeing a little bit of pain on Apple. Whereas CoreWeave, that did hit all-time highs today, 161 after hours. And then Nebius, 52.76. That was up 10%. Uber was up a little bit. Lyft was up a little bit on the day. And then NVIDIA, 142.73. There you go. Yeah. Also, a Sailor just did a podcast with Jordan Peterson. So I wonder. I don't know if I have the stomach to listen to Peterson philosophically talk about Bitcoin for 2 hours, but I'm sure that podcast will also potentially help the broader Bitcoin crypto ecosystem. The 10-year right here, 4.476 on the day. It was at 4.5 at one point. So came down a little bit. We need to get this one, down below 4, which it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. Last week we were at 4.3. That one is a little bit down on the day. All right, cool. That is it. We will be back to a normal market close tomorrow. I know some people really wanted the quantum debate. Some people didn't care for it. Nonetheless, we got it done. We don't really have to go through the whole quantum debate process again, but we will be following the saga, especially because our girl Tess is up big on it. Martin's down big on it. One of them eventually will be right over the coming years, and so we will be following the saga. But overall, at least we got the debate done, and that was important. Tomorrow we have Technical Tuesday as usual. Jason, he did buy Tesla at 270 by mistake. He put in a limit order. He didn't think it would get filled. It did get filled. So that order that he put in on Thursday has been doing well so far. So we'll get his thoughts tomorrow on the entire market. I think definitely we need some TA on Tessie, given the situation it's been in for the past couple of weeks, but also some TA on the broader markets. S&P reclaiming 6,000. That would also be helpful to see what's going on as well. Yeah, he literally bought it by mistake. He called me and he was like, he set a limit order on Thursday. He did not think he would get filled at 270, but it got filled. So he does have some more Tesla. Cool. Market open again tomorrow. Now I'm going to be back again today for the daily recap. So you guys will be back to doing the daily recap every single day. Couldn't do it last week, but we're back to doing it every day. And then number 2 is the Tech Bros pod with Roy and Tanner. That's going to be at 10:15 tonight. Roy's running a little late, so it'll be at 10:15. We usually do it at 9:30. 10:15 p.m. Eastern. That'll be tonight. We'll talk about NVIDIA. We'll obviously talk about Robinhood, S&P 500, this new development between Invest America and Robinhood. I can't believe today's the first day I'm thinking of the fact that, yeah, why wouldn't a lot of the newborns have their accounts on Robinhood? Like, that makes so much sense. And we'll definitely have a lot to talk about on that tonight. And we'll reference Apple WWC as well. We'll go deeper into what Apple announced today later on the show. So there you go. No one paid my student loan. My student loan it was transferred to a different provider. Now I tried to log into the different provider and it's not letting me log in. It's being stupid. So I have to figure out how to go make my payment. But yeah, there was no universe that paid off my student loan. It was just me being stupid and not seeing that it got transferred. In my defense, though, they didn't send an email. You had to like click on the notifications inside of the portal, and like who does that? Like, so, but yeah, I'm still on the hook for my student loans. So there you go. But yeah, dude, this Robinhood thing, I cannot believe today I'm making the connection that Gerstner invested in Hood, and he has this whole Invest America thing. They were literally sitting 2 seats away from each other on that investing roundtable today, although Vlad didn't get to talk publicly for Trump. But that's a hell of an argument for how those two can come together and really build something special. So, I mean, that could be a part of the bull case on Robinhood that even I haven't thought of, and we'll analyze it deeper tonight on the podcast as well. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back again, market open, market close every single day for the next 3 months, hopefully with no hiccups across the board. And we'll keep going. Newborns' first words, buy the dip. Literally, newborns will be buying the dip. And that's why this piece of legislation is so cool, dude. Newborns will be buying the dip as soon as they're born. It's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And if they're doing it on Robinhood, it's obviously going to be really good for all of us as investors, and obviously very good for them as they embrace the financial markets from a very young age. So there we go. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back tonight, 10:15 p.m. Eastern, and we will keep going from there. Bye, everyone. See you guys in a bit.